good afternoon, sir. First of all, thank you for joining us with us for this initiative which is started by College Dunia on Thoughts on Education. So, sir,
Thank you.
My first question would be, so you held a key position at Education Institute throughout your professional career, right, sir?
Right,
so,
right.
What are the key factors that keep you connected with the education sector?
I think, when it comes to education sector, one of the most exciting thing about the education sector is the youth.
Right.
And that is actually what attracted me to the education sector, because I worked in the corporate for about 13, 14 years. And all along, I always wanted to kind of, do something about, maybe give my contribution to the development of youth of this country. And I had a passion for training and counseling and, coaching. And I thought if I get into education sector, that is the best thing to do. So if you ask me what is the best thing about Education Institute, I think, or education sector, I think it is the youth, because they are, they are energy. They are at the forefront of embracing change. They are the first set of people who face the change, and they are the first set of people who embrace the change. And in fact, they keep us young.
Right, sir. Right. Okay, sir, that was good. So my second question would be, so being a dean, what is your philosophy of leadership, and how would you describe your leadership style?
Describe my leadership based on 3 pillars, which I have always followed in my life. The first pillar is respect. So I make sure that there is a mutual respect that is given to each of my team members. Second pillar is non-intrusiveness. So I make sure that I don't intervene or I don't intrude unnecessarily. Whenever and wherever my intervention is required, I am always available, and my team always has that kind of confidence. So that is the second pillar, that is non-intrusiveness. And the third pillar is empathy. So I am quite empathetic about my team, and I make sure that each of my team member is absolutely comfortable. Having said that, I also believe that every successful leader, he or she needs to have, what I call as 3 C's. The first C is character, second C is credibility, and the third C is clarity.
Okay, sir. So my next question would be, how do you strategize about the key program and plan of marketing and administration of your college?
We are a college which is now entering into its 25th year. So the processes are pretty well set. The institute has carved a niche for itself. Now, when we say that we are 25 years young, we also mean that we have gone for all sorts of national and international accreditations. So we have already walked down the quality roadmap, and ensuring that we offer quality is something that is ingrained in us. Now, the point is, how do we strategize? So for that, we have got set processes. For example, we always listen to what the industry has to say. We always listen to what the recruiter has to say. We always listen to what some of our stakeholders has to say. For example, we have an established process of taking feedback from our students. We have an established process of taking feedback from our industry partners. We have a feedback mechanism for our recruiters. And we also have constituted 2 different types of bodies. One is called as the Board of Governors, and second is called as the Board of Studies. So what we do is we continue to get a lot of feedbacks from each of these bodies, and we try to work on these feedbacks and filter out the feedbacks that we need to really incorporate. And we start incorporating those feedbacks. So we build our entire short-term vision and short-term mission based on all these feedbacks that we get. And we all are committed to our long-term vision and long-term vision, which the institute has.
Right, sir. So my next question would be, the education system in India and other foreign countries are structured very differently, right, sir?
Yeah.
So in your experience, what an inborn student gain from studying in SIS college?
I think, frankly speaking, the first thing that any student gains by being a part of SIS family is holistic education, because SIS as a group has been possibly one of the oldest educational groups in Mumbai. They started in 1932. Right. And SIS as a group is also known for its culture and holistic education. So that is the first thing that any student will gain by being a part of SysComs. We ensure that that student, he or she is going through a kind of a learning which will develop their holistic personality. Second thing is, we have got several initiatives to also make them socially conscious, to make them socially sensitive. For example, we have something called as an NGO project, as a part of which every student is required to undertake a project with an NGO. Now that also makes sure that they develop empathy, they develop sensitivity towards social issues. And third and the most important thing also is that we offer contemporary syllabus. We are an institute which has always offered contemporary syllabus, and because of that our students are much better prepared to face the challenges of the corporate world.
Great, sir. That is nice. So my next question would be, any insight into how your college could be more welcoming to students of different race or economic background?
As I mentioned, our institute or the entire group of institutions, basically we are known for our culture. One of the basic tenets or one of the basic fundamentals of our culture is our culture is all encompassing. Now, when I say that our culture is all encompassing, what I mean to say is that we do not fundamentally differentiate between different students. So whether they come from any strata of the society or they belong to any caste or creed, we do not differentiate. So that is the basic tenet, that is the basic fundamental of our institution, of our group. And therefore, I feel that any and every student belonging to any and every race or any and every economic strata is more than welcome in SIES.
Right, sir. Okay. So my next question would be, what do you think your roles and responsibility to the college and the students are?
I think, if I really do little introspection and ask myself what are my roles and responsibilities, I think the first thing that I would really like to state is facilitating better and better learning. Each day, the learning has to be better. That's the first thing.
Right.
Second thing is, I think, offering a contemporary syllabus, trying to make sure that what we teach is relevant or what students learn is relevant. And the third thing and the most important thing, I think, is developing a student as a responsible citizen. I think these are the three things that are absolutely essential and which I consider as my responsibility to the institute as well as to the students.
Great, sir. That was nice. So, sir, my next question would be, what do you think should be the college's top priority over the next 10 years?
That's a good question. I think, and this doesn't apply only to our college, but this applies practically to the entire education sector.
Correct.
In my view, there are three things. First is staying relevant, because the rate at which things are changing, that rate is very, very fast. And if the educational institutions do not change that fast, then there is a problem. They may not be relevant anymore. Therefore, my first priority is to stay relevant. The second priority, of course, to stay relevant, there are a set of things that we need to do. So the second thing that I need to do is that I need to continuously, relook, review, revise my syllabus and make sure that I offer a contemporary and futuristic syllabus. That's the second priority. And the third and the final priority is that as an institute, I would really like to grow up the value chain, right? So, for example, today, if I am amongst the top 10, I would like to go to top 5, and then I would like to go to top 3, and possibly I would like to become the topmost institute. So these are the three priorities that come to my mind.
So basically, we need to update and upgrade as per the time goes and everything. Right?
Absolutely. Yes. We need to be embracing change, and wherever required, we need to also cause the change.
Correct.
We need to be the change makers. We need to be the catalysts.
Right. So, sir, my next question would be, what would you like people to know about your college they may not know?
I think, as I've stated earlier, our college is known for its culture. We have a very, very deep-rooted culture that comes straight from our group. And as I mentioned, this culture is all-encompassing. So we do not believe in any kind of differentiation. Everybody and anybody is welcome here. So that is the first thing that I would really like to speak about the strength of our institute. Second thing is, as an institute, I'm very proud that we have always been embracing change. We have actually been at the forefront of embracing change. And I would like to give you a small example. Last March when the COVID hit us and we decided to start operating from home, I think my institute, Syscoms, was the first institute possibly in the city of Mumbai to have, kind of shifted everything, every academic process online. So whether it is admissions or it is examinations or it is teaching the students, the entire thing shifted online. So we were one of the first institutes to have embraced that change. And the third and the most important thing is that, our institute, the faculty and the staff are like one big family. The entire institute, faculty, staff, students, management, it's like one big family. And therefore, what I've seen, which is very typical of our institute, is there is a very, very high level of commitment. So any and every student or any and every faculty or any and every staff is day in and day out, engaged in trying to do something, trying to bring something on table so that the institute can do better and better. So I think these are some of the greatest strengths that our institute has.
Right. And that is actually, as you told, due to lockdown, you have to shift it to the digitalization.
Yes.
And which was the practical, the teacher and the professor was not easy for them also, because that was something new for everything. You were used to teaching in the classroom, teaching physically to the students, but going completely on digital platform, that was much difficult.
I am losing your voice, Rakesh. If you can repeat the last sentence.
So I was saying, sir, it was very tough for the faculties and the professor to go to digital way of teaching, right? Because you had always prepared for that traditional way, like you're seeing the students, you're teaching them practically, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So for going ahead for the next question, any suggestion you would like to give to the current youth and the aspiring students?
Yeah. So I always envy the youth of today, because they have a great advantage, right? They practically have all the information in the world at their fingertips. So my suggestion to them is that since you have so much of advantage, you have all the information that you might need, you must direct your time and your energy towards becoming better each and every day. That's the first thing that I would like to suggest. Second suggestion that I would like to give is that, you must always aim high, right? Always aim for what can be possibly the best within a given set of constraints. So always aim high. And third and the most important thing that I would like to suggest is whatever you do, please always think about the betterment of our country. Because remember, this is our motherland, right? We are because of our country. We are whatever we are because of our country. And we owe a lot to our country. And therefore, I think every minute, every second, and every hour, each one of you should really try to think as to what you can do to make your country better and better and better.
Right, sir. So just a second. So, sir, any other feedback rather than this? Any other thing you want to tell your students, and which you want to tell?
I think, I would just like to repeat that I think the first thing that is taught in the management is, there is always a hierarchy, right? So whenever you do something, in that hierarchy, you always do something which is beneficial to the biggest entity, right?
Correct.
And then the next big entity and the next big entity, and then finally probably the smallest entity, right? So the biggest entity is our country. So whatever we do, we should remember that it should benefit our country. The next biggest entity could be maybe the company that you work for or the organization that you work for. So whatever you do should also benefit that organization. Maybe the third biggest entity is your department that you work for. So whatever you do should benefit your department. And likewise, you go into that hierarchy and probably you as an individual come at the end. So whatever you do, of course, you also have to get the benefit out of it, but then you should not be the first person to get the benefit. The first entity that should get benefited should be your country.
Right, sir. So, sir, that's all from my side. So these are the questions which I was supposed to ask. So thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you.